Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
In the spring of 2013, a high school in western Pennsylvania organized a weekend field trip to a remote nature reserve in the Allegheny Mountains. It was part of an environmental science program for gifted students. The area was known for its isolation, thick woods, poor cell service, and a single road winding through miles of dense forest, perfect for studying undisturbed ecosystems. The students were excited. Parents were relieved to see their kids engaging with nature instead of screens. But not one of them could have known what was really waiting in those woods. The group was made up of 12 students, 2 chaperones, and 1 park ranger who served as a guide. They arrived Friday morning, unpacked at the reserve's main lodge, and then hiked to their designated campsite a mile into the forest. The area was scenic and peaceful until night fell. Around 1 a.m. that first night, a student named Claire woke up to the sound of branches cracking just beyond the tents. She thought maybe it was a deer or another student walking to the portable toilets. But when she unzipped her tent and looked out, there was no one, just trees and something else. A tall, pale figure standing perfectly still between the trunks, far enough away to remain vague but close enough that Claire could see it wasn't an animal. It didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching. Claire shut her tent, heart pounding, and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. She told the others in the morning, but everyone shrugged it off. Probably a tree playing tricks on her in the moonlight. Stress. Maybe she imagined it. Claire wasn't so sure. The second night, more students started to notice strange things. A boy named Theo said he heard someone walking in circles around the campsite at 3 a.m. Slow, steady steps that never entered the light of the campfire. Another student swore they saw something dart between trees at impossible speed. The chaperones told them it was wildlife, foxes, coyotes, imagination. But that same night, one of the girls went missing. Her name was Naomi. She'd gone to use the portable toilet with her flashlight. She never came back. They searched the area all morning. The ranger reported it to local authorities. By noon, a search party was deployed. The students were relocated to the lodge. Drones were flown overhead. Dogs were brought in. But Naomi was gone, vanished without a trace. Then came the second night in the lodge. They locked all the doors. Nobody was allowed to go outside. But something began tapping on the windows. First one, then another, then all of them. Light taps as if someone or something was circling the building, taunting them. When the ranger finally went out with his rifle to check, he didn't come back either. One of the chaperones called 911 again, panicked, only to be told that all roads into the reserve had been shut down due to a sudden landslide, something nobody had seen or heard. Emergency services wouldn't be able to reach them until morning. That night, a loud, unnatural scream came from the edge of the tree line. Not human, not animal, something in between. The lodge lights flickered and went out. Then came the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, moving along the wooden porch outside. Then a slow knock at the door, not a pounding knock, but a patient one, as if whoever or whatever was on the other side wasn't in a hurry, as if it had all night. The students and remaining chaperone barricaded themselves in a back room. They held their breath as the knocks continued for over an hour. Then, silence, not even crickets. By morning, authorities finally reached the lodge. The doors were untouched, but the walls were scratched, long, deep gouges in the wood that nobody inside had heard. Naomi and the ranger were never found. No signs of struggle, no blood. Just a single item left in the clearing where Naomi had last been seen, her flashlight still on, the beam pointing straight up into the branches. The field trip program was quietly shut down after that. The nature reserve remains open, but only for day visits now. Locals say the forest around that campsite feels wrong, too quiet, too still. Sometimes hikers report hearing whispers in the trees or seeing pale figures watching from the shadows, but nobody stays the night anymore. Not after what happened.
Story number 2.
In the fall of 2017, a middle school in Missouri organized a field trip to a historical Civil War battlefield turned museum, nestled in the middle of the countryside. The place had been preserved exactly as it was in the 1800s, complete with the original buildings, rusting cannons, and a network of underground bunkers that had once been used as makeshift hospitals. The field trip was meant to be educational, a bit of history, a little adventure, but it turned into something much darker. There were about 30 students and 3 teachers on the trip. They arrived by bus in the late morning, toured the main house, and walked the grounds with a friendly, older tour guide named Mr. Calhoun. He told them stories of soldiers dying in the field, surgeries done without anesthesia, and unmarked graves scattered throughout the property. Most of the kids were more interested in their phones than his ghost stories until they reached the bunkers. The entrance was a rusted door embedded in a hill. It creaked open with a metallic groan that echoed underground. The air that came out was ice cold and smelled of wet stone and something else, something metallic like blood. The group descended a narrow staircase into the darkness. The guide's flashlight flickered, but he didn't seem concerned. "Power's been sketchy down here for years," he said. "Don't worry, just stay together." Inside, the tunnels twisted and branched. Old surgical tables still sat in the rooms. Stains darkened the walls and floors. Some of the students started to feel dizzy. One girl, Amber, said she heard whispers. Not voices, but whispers. Raspy, like someone trying to speak without a tongue. A boy named Lucas wandered away from the group briefly. It was only a minute. When they found him, he was standing still, facing the wall, eyes wide, not blinking. When a teacher touched his shoulder, he screamed and collapsed to the floor. He kept whispering something over and over. "They're awake now." The teachers rushed everyone back upstairs and out into the daylight. Lucas wouldn't stop shaking. They gave him water, called his parents. They figured he had a panic attack. But things only got weirder after that. That night, back at home, one of the teachers, Misty Hack Duval, woke to the sound of footsteps in her hallway. She lived alone. She thought it was her imagination until the footsteps stopped outside her bedroom door. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, 2 students were absent, Amber and another boy, Kyle. Both of their parents reported that the kids were having terrible nightmares and refused to speak. When Amber finally talked, she said there were men without eyes standing at the foot of her bed at night, watching. She said one of them kept mouthing the word return. One by one, more students started reporting the same things: nightmares, whispers, scratches on their walls. One boy's family even called a priest after he woke up screaming with 3 long scratches down his back, scratches that hadn't been there when he went to bed. The school tried to downplay it, said it was a group hysteria, a psychological reaction to the creepy stories they'd heard underground. But the tour guide, Mr. Calhoun, was interviewed by a local reporter. That's when things got worse. He said off the record that the bunkers were never meant to be opened, that years ago, long before the tours, there had been a collapse in part of the underground network. When they cleared the rubble, they found a sealed stone room filled with bones, hundreds of them. But what disturbed him most wasn't the bones. It was what was carved into the walls over and over again. "Do not wake them." Mr. Calhoun quit 2 days after the interview, moved out of state. To this day, several of the students who went on that field trip still refuse to talk about it. Some have changed schools. Others transferred or dropped out entirely. The museum is still open, but the underground bunkers are now permanently sealed. No more tours, no more flashlights in the dark, and no one goes near that door in the hillside anymore, because whatever was asleep down there isn't asleep anymore.
Story number 3.
In the winter of 2019, a group of high school students from Vermont went on a weekend ski trip to a mountain resort as part of their school's winter sports program. The resort was old, rustic, and mostly empty during that time of year, a hidden gem that only locals really knew about. It had once been a booming lodge in the 1970s, but after a string of tragic accidents on the mountain, it had faded into obscurity. Still, the school booked the entire upper floor of the lodge for the students. They arrived on a Friday afternoon, excited for a weekend of skiing, snowboarding, and fun in the snow. By nightfall, a blizzard had rolled in, heavier than expected. The power flickered, the wind howled against the windows, and the staff warned everyone not to wander too far from the lodge after dark. Snow drifts were piling up fast, and visibility was nearly zero. Most of the students stayed in the lounge, playing cards and drinking cocoa. But four of them, Jake, Megan, Riley, and Marcus, decided to sneak out and explore an old service trail they'd spotted earlier behind the lodge. The trail wasn't marked on the maps. It twisted up into the woods behind the mountain, leading to an abandoned ski lift station no longer in use. The group had heard rumors from one of the lodge staff that the area was cursed, that in 1978 an entire lift full of people had vanished in the storm, the chairs returning empty. Everyone thought it was just local legend, until they followed the trail. The deeper they went, the quieter everything got. The snow muffled all sound, and the trees pressed in on either side. Eventually, they reached the ruined lift station, a small building half collapsed and nearly buried in snow. The lift chairs above still creaked in the wind, swaying slightly, despite the cables no longer running. That's when Riley noticed something. There were footprints in the snow, fresh ones, leading from the woods to the building and disappearing inside. But there was only one set. They thought maybe a hunter or someone from the lodge had been there. But when they looked closer, the prints were barefoot. No shoes, no boots, just human feet. In the snow. They should have turned back, but they didn't. Inside, the air was warmer than it should have been, thick with the smell of rust and damp wood. Old ski gear was scattered on the floor, moldy and half frozen. Jake found an old photograph pinned to the wall, black and white, showing a group of skiers smiling at the top of the hill, but their faces had been scratched out with something sharp, deep gouges in the photo paper. Then came the whispering. It started as a soft breeze, like wind sneaking through the broken boards, but it became words, faint, ragged, repeating one phrase, "Shh, we never came back down." Marcus was the first to panic. He ran outside into the snow, calling for help. The others followed, but Marcus was gone. No footprints, just a stretch of untouched snow where he had been standing seconds earlier. They ran back to the lodge in silence, terrified. The staff launched a search the next morning, but the blizzard had erased everything. No signs of Marcus, no tracks, nothing. That night, the remaining three huddled together in one room. Around 3 a.m., Jake woke up to the sound of creaking. He looked out the window and saw the old ski lift across the ridge. The chairs were moving, slowly, silently. They hadn't moved in decades. One chair passed directly in front of the window. Jake swore he saw Marcus sitting in it, pale, barefoot, his eyes black, his mouth open in a silent scream. Jake screamed, waking the others, but when they looked, the lift was still, not moving. They left the next morning. The school no longer books trips to that resort, and the owner of the lodge quietly boarded up the trailhead to the old lift station. But every winter, during the worst snowstorms, guests still report strange noises coming from the woods behind the mountain. Some say they hear footsteps in the halls, bare, wet feet slapping against the floor. Others claim to see a ski lift running in the distance, even though it's been shut down for nearly 50 years. And every few years, another person disappears on that mountain, always in the snow, always without a trace.